Welcome to this first ever Brough Family International Virtual Reunion. We appreciate your patience while we've been logging everyone in here, and hopefully we'll see even some more as they come through. But thank you all for joining. With me here in the Brough Realty Building in Kaysville, Utah, USA, are some other members of the Brough Family Organization, or BFO, officers and board members. Clayton Brough is here. His daughter Allison is with us. And Philip and Mary Brough are with us. You've heard from both of them so far. Steve Brough, who owns the building here, will be joining us shortly. He is at a family event that the schedule was changed at the last minute. As we all know, family reunions are an opportunity for families to come together, to either connect and reconnect with our family roots and find a sense of belonging. It's about being part of something bigger than just a grandparent organization. Family members get a sense of belonging just knowing that they're part of something bigger than themselves, and finding out that there are other people out there who care about them, and they are very talented and have lots of things going on in their life. Our hope for this international reunion is that we go beyond the grandparent family organization and bring the total Brough family together into one setting so that we can see, hear, and interact with cousins that we don't even know about today, and learn what a diverse and talented group this really is. Every 5 years or so, the BFO holds family reunions. The last several have been what we call the international reunions. However, because the family is so spread out across the world, it was difficult for many people to travel and make it to whatever physical location was chosen. So we thought for a couple of years that we ought to come up with a way that we could do some sort of virtual reunion that more people could participate. With conditions and events that the way they are today, that's become possible now with new and better technologies, some of which that we're using today. We've practiced and practiced with this technology over the past few weeks. We hope it works. So be patient with us if something doesn't go the way we intend it to, but it should all work out okay. Now I'm going to let Philip take over and give you some instructions about how to use this technology so that we indeed can interact with each other without talking over each other, and be able to be a part of all of this. So I'm going to turn the mic back to him. Once he's done with that, we will start with a convocation and an invocation to be delivered by Reverend Barbara Dunedin, who is in, I'm going to say this wrong, I'm sure, Dunedin, New Zealand. She couldn't be with us today live, so she pre-recorded her remarks, and we'll view those as soon as Philip is done giving instructions. Philip.
Okay. Now, many of these instructions I think we've already been able to give, but the big thing is if everybody could, please keep your microphones muted. There will be a chance toward the end to unmute and to talk and get to know each other a little bit better. Also, if you're willing, most of you have already got your cameras on, which is great, and this is awesome to be able to just see everybody's faces. So that's awesome. And then if you do have any concerns, like we mentioned, you can either share something in the chat, and we will try to watch, we'll try and watch what's going on there. But then also you can raise your hand. So if you raise your hand, not so much like this, but just touch the screen, or and at the bottom there should be a thing that says raise hand. If there's not, there'll be a spot where there's 3 dots. You can touch those and see it. Or depending on your device, if you're on a computer, you likely have to actually go to the participant list, find your name, and there'll be a spot where you can raise your hand there, and that'll alert us. So.
Good afternoon, hello, and greetings to you wherever you might be from Dunedin in New Zealand, about as far as you could be from York, where this chapter in the Brough story started, but which we've been able to trace back to the days of William the Conqueror. My name is Barbara Deneen, and it's my very great privilege to deliver this convocation, this calling together of family, or to use a Maori word which we adopt in New Zealand in our everyday speech, our whānau. It's a word that embraces all of us, whether the links are strong or more by association. It defines us as a group of people with something significant in common. And the Brough whānau is a prime example of just how far our ancestors travelled. We may speculate as to the reasons for their journeying to unknown countries, but we do know that there has been a range of achievements, of occupations, from miners to missionaries, from landowners to lawyers, and everything in between. This past year, the world as we know it has been turned upside down in the east and in the west, in the north and in the south. Our gathering is in part virtual, and thankfully technology allows us to participate regardless of time or place. As you listen to this, I will be leading a service for Eucharist in St. Paul's Cathedral here on Sunday morning. My thoughts and prayers will be with you all. As you'll discover later, I'm a relatively recent Brough. About 20 years ago, a cousin of mine found that our family tree, as we knew it, was slightly, shall we say, erroneous. Since then, we've followed Anthony Brough's story and, thanks to technology, connected with our past. We all have our stories. I hope you, wherever you are, will speak and listen and share as we celebrate our togetherness, something of which our world has great need right now. May we celebrate our unity in diversity and keep the Brough family flame alive for generations to come. And so I offer this short prayer as a blessing on our gathering. Lord Jesus Christ, we thank you for inviting each one of us to be part of this community. Help us never to think of our position in it as one of privilege, but as an opportunity to serve each other and your world. As we travel together, help us to be constantly aware of the needs of the rest of the community and keep us humble. Lord, help us never to make trouble, but always to work for peace, to be open, warm and honest, motivated always by your love. And so we thank you for our Brough forebears, for all they achieved and the legacy they left. We offer this time of thanksgiving to you. Be with us, go with us, stay with us, for your love's sake. Amen.
We thank Barbara for that invocation. Now, let's have a little bit of fun and interact with each other. We're going to do a couple of polling questions. Let's find out where we all are calling from today. Where are they? You should see on your screen a question asking, where are you joining from today? We've listed several choices for you to choose from. Go ahead and do that. Okay, we are sharing the results of that poll. So it looks like we have.
And
Okay.
let's see. Okay. Oh, yeah. Let's see if we can make that a little bigger. So right now we've got eight joined from England. 39 from the United States, and 1 from somewhere else. Let's do this one.
All right, let's go do the next one now. One more for now. Yeah. Go back to polling.
And this one.
Yeah, go to the next one. Polling number 2. This one, we'd like to know how old you all are. So if you have multiple people in one room, let's say pick the youngest one in the room. So as you can see, I guess we're a fairly mature group today, but we do have some of the younger folks here with us. Excellent. Okay, thank you. Anyway, we invited several of you around the world to share with us photos or video clips or stories from your particular neck of the woods. We have collected several of those. We have put those all into one short video clip here that we'd like to share with everyone so that you can see, again, different cousins and family members around the world and what they are engaged in and what we might learn from them. So let's do that.
Hello, I'm Clayton Brough, and welcome to Nearly 1,000 Years of Family History. In this video, you'll see and hear how one of the world's largest ancestral family organizations has discovered and shared its family history with thousands of relatives living in many countries and on several continents. I hope you enjoy this true story that covers nearly 1,000 years. Much of the story about the Broughs of England would not be known if it were not for many years of research by 2 individuals, Catherine Ann Brough and James Henry Brough.
The town of Leek is in northern Staffordshire and dates back to the early 1200s. For hundreds of years, the town was a regular cattle market, but during the Industrial Revolution, it became a major producer of textiles. Since the 1500s, many Brough-related families have lived in and around Leek and contributed much to its development.
The Richard Brough Family Organization is named after Richard Brough, who was born in 1786 in Trentham, Staffordshire, England. As a young man, Richard Brough learned the trades of carpentry and brickmaking. But when he was 19 years old, he joined the British Army and became a gunner, and served for the next 17 years in the 8th Battalion of the Royal Artillery Service. Due to an injury to his ankles, Richard was discharged from the Army in 1822. In 1825, Richard married Mary Harleston in St. Peter's Church in Stoke-upon-Trent, and they became the parents of 10 children, most of whom were christened in the Church of St. John Longton, which was demolished in 1979. In 1840, Richard joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and later on, 5 of his 10 children also joined the LDS Church, with 3 of them, Thomas, Elizabeth, and Samuel, eventually immigrating to Utah.
Today, RBFO officers and board members represent thousands of Brough descendants living on several continents and in many nations. And the RBFO website receives over 40,000 visits a month.
Brough family reunions have been held in northern Utah. This one was held in 1978 in Bountiful, and this one was held in 2000 in Kaysville. Several years ago, the RBFO began sponsoring international Brough reunions, such as this one held in 2005 in Randolph and Kaysville, Utah.
In August 2011, Revival Cycles partnered with Brough Superior to take Brough back to the Bonneville Salt Flats for the first time in 60 years. With an 1150cc JAP engined Brough Special in the trailer, we had hopes of setting a new land speed record for the vintage gasoline special class. None seemed to imagine that on our first trip to the Salt, we'd set the record twice.
In 1981, my father, two close friends, and I went on an adventure in Alaska. We were to land on a remote lake and climb to some beautiful high country. In order to reduce the load we would have to personally carry, we wrapped our supplies in boxes and covered them with foam, attached large colored streamers, and threw them out the window of our bush plane at our intended destination. After arriving, we searched and searched, but to our dismay, we could not find any of the boxes. Eventually, we found one. It contained a small gas stove, a tarp, some candy, and a couple packages of hamburger helper, but no hamburger. We had no way to communicate with the outside world, and our scheduled pickup was a week later. I learned 2 valuable lessons from this experience. 1, do not throw your food out the window. 2, sometimes we have to face hard things. Frequently, our first reaction to hard things is, why me? Asking why, however, never takes away the hard thing. The Lord requires that we overcome challenges, and He has indicated that all these things shall give us experience and shall be for our good. As we face hard things in the Lord's way, may we lift up our heads and rejoice.
Remember how it used to snow in Tahoe, how we came on down. Remember the winter of '84, 20 feet on the ground, spending time with old friends, singing songs by the fire. Watching the snow fall down, watching the snow fall down, watching the snow fall down, watching the snow fall down. Ooh, watching the snow fall down, watching the snow fall down. Watching the snow fall down, watching the snow fall down.
When you go into a kindergarten class and ask how many of them are artists, ask them to raise their hands, every single hand shoots up. And somewhere around maybe 3rd grade, some of them start thinking, well, I'm not really an artist because Bob here is a lot better than I am and I suck at this. I'm giving up. I'm going to go do something else. And I recognize that when we define ourselves by who and what we are today, we really limit ourselves and limit our future by defining ourselves in these really small boxes. Oh, I don't know how to do that. I'm not good at drawing. I'm not good at music. I could never do that. And I think that is such a cop-out. That is bull. We need to get busy and put our minds to doing something creative. Begins with that quote from St. Francis that a man who works with his hands is a laborer, a man who works with his hands and his head is a craftsman, but a man who works with his hands, his head, and his heart is an artist. If we can live our lives in love rather than fear, everything else falls into the right place. Everything works out somehow.
I am having fun, but I really try to make it look like I'm having fun.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. We had a lot of fun putting that together. We want to thank those who sent in contributions for that. And want to have a special shout out to Cindy Brough for actually compiling all that and putting that together for us. So with that, we're going to move to our next polling question. Find out a little bit more about this group. And that question is, do you know your Brough ancestry past your grandparents? Yes, no, or maybe? Yeah. Okay, we'll share the results. This is interesting. The majority of us do know our ancestry past our grandparents. So moving on, we a few years back, we had a very interesting thing happen to a member in the family. And actually a story that was told and was published in a local newspaper, but we thought we ought to have that person share that story with us today. So we have pre-recorded that as well. Let's go ahead and move to that story.
Greetings from Kaysville, Utah. My name is Richard Lyle Brough. I have been asked to relate an experience I had several years ago. One day, I received a call from a lady in Atlanta, Georgia. She wanted to know if I was the Richard Brough listed on our Brough Family website as an officer in the organization. I answered that I was. She then said she had discovered some pictures while cleaning out an old antique desk her mother had purchased from an antique store years ago, and that it had been stored in the attic after her mother died. She could remember being with her mother when she purchased the desk. While going through the desk, she had discovered a secret drawer, which contained a number of black and white pictures. She mentioned that one of the pictures contained an autographed name of Jimmy Brough, 1929, written across it, but there was no other clues as to who he was or why the photos were placed in a hidden compartment in the desk. Another picture was of his wedding party. She asked me if I or family researchers could help her find out who were in the pictures and where they came from. I informed her that we could surely try. She sent me a package containing high-quality photocopies of two of the pictures that had been placed in the desk. I contacted Clayton and sent the pictures to him, and this great man took it from there. He and others researched for Jimmy and found that his name is James Wasdale Brough of Salloth, England, and that he was a famous rugby player. More information about him can be found on the Brough website. Now, today, I conclude my remarks by saying that I hope in some future day I get to meet Jimmy Brough and find out more about that secret drawer.
Thank you, Richard Brough, for that story. A lot of fun things like that happen around this organization. So let's move to our next interaction here and our next question for the group. Here's maybe the hardest question of the day. How interested are you in family history? Very, somewhat, or not at all? We'll share the results. As I look at this, we are all either somewhat or very interested in family history. Good for you all. Okay, we wanted to take a few minutes as part of all this to let you get an idea, hear from our family genealogist about some of the things that the family is working on right now, some of the projects that are there. He's also brought some pretty fun little artifacts to share with you all. So with that, I'm going to give the mic to Clayton.
Well, thank you very much, Philip and Shane. Since 1918, when the Brough Family Organization was basically organized, you need to know that each decade, or even sooner than that, within those decades, there have been official research reports given. In other words, what have the researchers on the ground, wherever they may be around the world, what have they found out about the Broughs? And as a result, I'm going to take just a couple of minutes and try to bring you up to date. The Brough Family Organization actually has a database of about 79,000 individuals. Now, these individuals are linked or not linked. Some are floaters, some we're still trying to do research on. To give you an idea who's on the ground in different areas, we have 16 different research projects going on right now in 4 continents. The people that are on the ground include these individuals, specifically as I mentioned them. Philip and Bibi Brough are located in Staffordshire, England, and we really appreciate their continual work, even with the virus going on. Michael McMichael in Australia, Doug Brough in Scotland, and Doug has a very large database that he's worked on through the years. It basically covers quite a bit around the world, and we appreciate his one-name study. Ward Bray in New York, John Brough in Idaho, Susan Smith and Ethel Brough in Utah, and the list goes on and on and on. So it gives you a little bit of a feel of who's on the ground and what's going on. We occasionally also have documents that come to us. These are from people outside the United States as well as within the United States. Just to give you an idea, this right here, if you can see it, this is a Bible. The Bible is basically printed in 1852, and it was the Bible of Emma Brough. And Emma Brough basically has her ancestry going back to Leek, Staffordshire. The best part about this is the inside, where you actually can see information containing her family and her family members. We have several of these in possession of the Brough Family Organization. We appreciate those individuals willing to share them. We also have this. This is a 1572 parchment. Now, it's difficult to see. It's encased in glass. On the back of it, I don't know that you can see this very clearly, but there is a date, and the date is 1572. This is a land document from actually my 10th great-grandfather. And for many of you who are tuning in, if I would suggest that probably many of you are also related in one way or another to this individual. His name was Thomas Brough, and he was born in 1538 in Leek, Staffordshire. So between the digital files that we have and the data that is coming into us, there's a very strong likelihood that we can link many individuals around the world to their Brough ancestry if they go back to the British Isles. I cannot thank you enough for all of you who supply us information on your family. For those that are obviously living, that information is confidential. The only thing that we place on the Brough website is information on deceased individuals. I think you'll understand the reason for that when you consider privacy issues. Again, on behalf of all the researchers that have worked, who are continuing to work, and for others who will be coming up, that includes the younger generation, we want to thank you for your efforts and participation in the Brough Family Organization. Thank you, and I'll turn you back to Shane. Oh, Shane says somebody's asked about the shirts. The Brough Organization actually has these. You can hop online, broughfamily.org, and then it takes you to the main Brough site, which is Google-based. And the shirts, there you go. Thanks, Philip. We ought to have him as a model, shouldn't we? But you can order these shirts directly from the Brough Family Organization. We also have small refrigerator magnets that actually contain the organizational arms of the Brough Family Organization. Thank you, everybody. Take care and God bless. I'm going to turn you back to Shane.
This one hopefully should be easy. You might have to look outside to answer this one, but what is the weather like where you are today? Is it clear and warm? Is it clear and cold? Is it cloudy and warm or cloudy and cold? Looks like most of us are having a nice day. It's clear and warm where they are. Maybe cloudy and warm too, but at least warm. All right. Well, as promised, we wanted to give some time to everyone to ask questions. Several of you have been asking questions through the chat feature, and thank you for those. Hopefully you've been able to answer those thus far. But we're going to open this up. If somebody's got a question, they might raise their hand or have something to say to the group. We'll open that up now, and let's have a little interaction.
One thing I can tell you too, as you start, whoever wants to go first, or if you have anything to share or questions, tell us first who you are, where you're coming in from, and a little bit about yourself before you get started.
I have one other little question. The people that you showed on your video, and it said Wells, Nevada, by any chance, is there a way of getting a hold of them? Because I'm wondering if they know of any Prunties, because that's horse people up there and cow people, and I'm just wondering if they've interacted with that.
If you'll send us an email or send us a chat, we will definitely respond to you accordingly. Yeah.
Okay.
I know the Prunties well.
Do you, Wild?
Yes, sir.
I'm a yeah.
Marge Prunty is kind of the last of the older ones that's still alive.
Right. Yeah. My dad was the youngest boy in the family of the 13. So yeah. So that's why I'm interested to find people that have interacted with them.
Okay, so my name's Lindsay. I live in South Lincolnshire, not far from Peterborough in the UK. I actually descend from Robert Evans, the father of Robert Evans, who married Mary Ann Brough, who is the sister of Elizabeth, who you just mentioned, and the other two siblings that went to Utah. And Clayton, I just want to say hello, because we've been in touch a few years back when I provided the information on Robert Evans and William Evans, which is my ancestor.
I remember.
Yeah. So
you're still very young, though. I'm very old.
Well, sort of descend. I've got lots of Staffordshire ancestry, so I'm interested to see Mark there, whether he descends from any of that bunch at all. I don't know if Mark, you know.
No, I'm afraid not, Lindsay. I answered the poll. I'm somewhat interested, and I'm somewhat know about my ancestors. So I don't know any detail, but I did a couple of years ago. I did explore around Wild Boar Clough, and I discovered some graves of our ancestors in Forest Chapel in Macclesfield Forest. So maybe I'll tell you all about that story in a little while later on this evening.
Right. And then there's another Mark that seems to be from Stoke-on-Trent, who we had a lovely little water introduction earlier in the background. Are you linked to that side at all? No, you're on mute, Mark.
Mark from Stoke-on-Trent.
Yeah, Mark from Stoke-on-Trent as well.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, my Brough ancestry goes back to Thomas Brough, who Clayton mentioned not too long ago, at the Windigate site in Leek, and I currently have relatives who live there at the moment. My sister-in-law, her cousin lives currently in Windigates in Leek, and that's where my tree descends from, and they moved from Leek towards Congleton, and then Biddulph, and then towards Chell in Stoke-on-Trent, where I currently am.
Ah, okay.
I grew up in Stoke-on-Trent.
Hello, sorry?
I grew up in Stoke-on-Trent.
Mark, it's good to see you, by the way.
Yeah, you too. We did meet, Clayton, some time ago
did.
when you were over at the Brough reunion when you came to Leek.
Yes. It's good to see you, and take care of your health and everything.
Yeah, thank you, and the same goes to you and everyone, actually. So, yeah, good to hear from you.
So, Jen, you said you come from Stoke-on-Trent.
Yes, my Brough connection is through Elizabeth Newton, who married George Wotton, Elizabeth Brough, who married George Wotton Newton.
But yeah, it was quite strange. I spend a lot of time at the moment in Leek, and I was quite fascinated by my family tree and found I've probably got about 65–70% of my ancestry comes from Staffordshire, but mainly Stoke-on-Trent, where I was born. And my Brough family goes back to Middle Hume, which, funny enough, I travelled through today, which is around the Roaches on the way up Leek to Buxton. I just wrote them down before. Henry Brough, who was born around 1630s, my 8th great-grandfather, and he'd be the only possible connections I have with a lot of DNA relatives in the States, because it's usually the only surname that connects us, respective family trees. And there's no other possible connection. I've probably got about 10 or 12 separate DNA relatives, cousins in the US, who have Samuel and Elizabeth in their family tree, and that's really the only connection.
Clayton, come on and just try and talk about a few of the questions that were in the chat as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna mute everybody and go back to the screen where, well, I guess it's a different screen for everybody. So I'll just mute everybody and let Clayton talk for a minute here.
Starting in 2021, we're going to begin purchasing quite a number of BMD certificates from the GRO in England. And those will give us the birth, the marriages, the deaths, starting in about 1837 up to about, well, we're hoping to get up to about 1860, so that we can fill in some gaps. Those certificates give us a lot more information than what just a simple entry in a parish church may provide us. Let me just make a general statement. If you have a specific question or issue or concern, please email us at, again, bfo.officer@gmail.com, and we'll go ahead and respond as quickly as we can.
Thank you, everyone. I think this has been informative. I think this has been awesome to be able to connect with people that I haven't met before. And hopefully you've had the same experience where you've seen and heard others that you now can connect with around the world. We thank you for your contributions, both to the recorded items and to your questions and comments now. We've reached the end of our scheduled time. We'll hang around for just a couple of minutes if people have yet another question or something they want to share. We'll leave the meeting open, but those that feel that they need to move on to the rest of their day, feel free to do that. Again, thank you for being part of this. This has been recorded. We will post this out to the website as soon as we can, the Brough Family website, so that if someone missed it or you want to share it with someone else, we can do that. Sorry, Wild, you're breaking up on us.
To see where's the best place to go in the UK to see Brough stuff, to where most of the Broughs were at, I guess.
Yeah, I would say
we know your direct ancestry, Wild. So there's a few places in Yorkshire that you want to look up specifically. So I'll go ahead and forward those to you, okay?
Shane, this is Ward Bray in Buffalo, New York.
Hi, Ward.
Hi. I don't think we've ever spoken.
We haven't. We've emailed but never spoken.
Yep. So I just want to say hello and thank you once again to you and Clayton and others who helped me tie this together. Without the DNA work that y'all did, I'd still be in the dark. So thank you once again very much.
Well, and thanks for all you've done to contribute to what we've got here. Clayton just joined us as well, so.
Ward, how are you doing?
Good. We're just fine here. How are you?
Very
so
good.
Nice to see your face.
Well, it's nice to see yours too. We wish you were here personally.
Yeah, I was planning on being with you all this, but it'll have to wait a year.
Yes, I know.
Next time, right?
Yep. This has been a very unusual year.
It's not over yet.
Oh, I know.
That's right.
Well, just take good care of yourself, Ward. Thank you.
And that you're musical and you're in the DNA, I guess we get the music part. So
Well,
is
some
that,
of
is
us
that,
might be, but
no,
somebody else
that's what
got
I'm
all that talent.
Yeah, that's why I was just wondering, as far as, have you done surveys in the sense of saying, you know, what talents are there? Because that's how I do genealogy. Sometimes people don't know who their people are. And I say, well, what is your talent? And then I try to go backwards from their talent to see if I can find people. And it really does work pretty.
Yeah, the landing page of the family website does have a picture of that castle there. So, and then again, within the body of the website, there's a lot of information about it. Here, Clayton's going to share some more.
On the Brough website, it actually was built in around 1090. It was in Cumberland. It's part of the remains of an earlier Roman fort. And it's one of the first stone castles to be built in Britain. And Shane's been there, and there's been other family members that have been there. So just hop on the Brough website, and it's right there. Okay, it's under the section under Cumberland, or Cumbria now. Okay.
Thanks, Clayton.
You bet.
They have a little ice cream shop there too. It's called the Brough Castle Ice Cream and Sandwich or something, but they wouldn't give us a discount because our last name is Brough. So,
Do you want to mention anything about the Brough motorcycle, the history behind that one?
well, we're hopeful that they'll come back to the Bonneville Salt Flats. They've tried, but not this year, obviously. I think they've been struggling to get sponsors lately, what they're telling us at least, to come back here and run a few more races. I found it interesting. I knew Jay Leno, if you know who Jay Leno, the American comedian is. I knew he had about 3 or 4 Brough Superiors, but now I know he has a whole garage full of them. He had a good friend in England who collected these, and his friend was dying of cancer. And so he actually bought this collection from his friend and now houses it in his garage. It's an amazing collection. So if you get a minute sometime, you might want to do that. Look up Jay Leno's Garage, you know, online, and he does a tour of that whole group and tells the story. It's a fascinating story.
If anybody's interested, I live about 15 minutes walk from George Brough's house.
Oh, really?
On Sunrise. And so I'm actually a Brough from Staffordshire. Well, my family comes from Middle Hulme, although I live in Arnold, Nottingham. I'm about 15 minutes walk from George Brough's house on Sunrise Hill with the blue plaque on it, and probably a 15 minutes walk from the old factory on Hayden Road at Sherwood. So I can send photographs if anybody's interested of those bits and pieces.
Please.
I think I've got a photograph of T.E. Lawrence's last Brough that was on display in the museum at Newark on a recent exhibition. I'll see if I can dig that out, but I can sort that out for you, no problem at all.
Jim, I'd appreciate your help. As far as I know, the last motorcycle was there. The actual ones made by him were completed in 1940, before they turned everything over because of the war. Yeah, any additional information you can give us would be appreciated. So
there are allegedly 6 buried in the foundations of a factory that's been built on the site of the garage on Hayden Road at Sherwood, Nottingham. They dumped them in before when the business closed. They wouldn't sell them on. There's the garage on Main Street at Bulwell where they sold the cars, but it was associated with George Brough as well. I can get you photographs of that.
Interesting.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you.
No problem.
Clayton,
Yes.
this is Marcia. Anna.
Marcia, how are you, cousin?
Okay. My question and interest is horses. And I always heard from my grandmother that the Broughs were involved with bringing the Clydesdale horses to America.
You know what? The one to ask Marcia would be
Do
John.
we have some history of love of horses in England? Starting back with our ancestors.
If you're talking about the United States, I'd say you'd have to talk to your cousin John, and he could fill you in on that.
I will do it.
Okay. And that'll take you back to the mid 1800s. And then if it has to do with horses in England, I'd have to turn over to people who obviously know that bit of the story.
Yeah, well, you know, that's my love, and
Okay.
I'm gonna have some horses finally in the eternity. So
Okay.
it was
Thanks,
so
Marcia.
wonderful to see and participate today. It
Good
was
to see
wonderful.
you.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you. Love you.
Love you too.
Okay. Any other questions or comments, or otherwise we might go ahead and close it up. Okay. Well, you guys, this was wonderful. Thank you so much. And please stay in touch.